The laughter started before the lecture even began. It spread in quiet ripples across the vast amphitheater of the Galactic Academy, low at first, like a shared joke whispered between friends, then louder, sharper, until it echoed off the curved alloy walls. At the center of it all, glowing faintly on the main holoscreen, was a single word: humans, a species classification tag. Nothing more. And yet, it was enough. They're still teaching this? One student scoffed from the upper tier, his elongated fingers drumming lazily against the desk. I thought the human ban was ancient history. They're fragile, another added, her bioluminescent skin pulsing faintly with amusement. Low gravity tolerance, inefficient biology, emotional instability. Honestly, how did they ever make it off their planet? A few nearby students chuckled. Luck, someone muttered. Or a clerical error. More laughter. Near the center row, a broad-shouldered cadet leaned back in his seat, boots resting against the console in front of him. His name was Cale Virex, top of his tactical cohort, known for his sharp instincts and sharper tongue. "Let me guess," Cale said, loud enough for half the room to hear. "This is the part where they tell us humans were dangerous." He made exaggerated air quotes with two clawed fingers. A ripple of amusement followed. "Careful," another student called out. "You'll offend the ghosts." "Good," Cale replied. "Maybe they'll finally show up and prove they're worth banning." The room erupted. At the front, the instructor hadn't moved. Professor Threx stood motionless beside the holoscreen, his tall, angular frame silhouetted in cold blue light. His species didn't emote the way others did. No visible expressions, no shifts in color, but there was something in his stillness that didn't match the mood of the room. He waited. Not for silence. For something else. Eventually, the laughter died down. Not completely, but enough to continue. Threx raised one long limb and tapped the console. The word humans expanded, branching into archived data points, historical markers, and sealed classifications, most of them blurred, locked behind clearance levels far above that of the students present. A low whistle came from somewhere in the back. "Look at that," someone murmured. "Half of it's restricted." "Dramatic," Cale said. "They really committed to the myth." Professor Threx finally spoke. "State your assumption, Cadet Virex." The room quieted slightly. Not out of respect, but curiosity. Cale didn't hesitate. "Humans," he said, sitting forward now, "were an early-stage species. Physically inferior. Technologically behind. They posed no real threat to the galaxy." A pause. Then, with a smirk, "The ban was probably political. Or symbolic. Something to make weaker systems feel safer." A few nods. A few murmurs of agreement. Threx tilted his head, just slightly. "And you believe this? Based on?" Cale gestured casually at the screen. "Everything we've been allowed to see. A beat. That's the point, isn't it?" A flicker passed through the room. Subtle, but there. Because everyone knew. They had all seen the same thing. Fragmented records, incomplete histories, sanitized summaries. Mentions of humans always came with gaps. Missing files, corrupted logs, entire sections marked as restricted by order of the Council. It made no sense. Not for a species that was supposedly insignificant. "Exactly," another student chimed in. "If they were actually dangerous, we'd study them in detail, not hide them behind clearance walls. Unless," someone else added with a grin, "there's nothing to show." More laughter, but not as loud this time. Threx let the silence stretch. Then, slowly, he moved closer to the console. The human ban, he said, is not a subject of speculation. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It is a directive, absolute, unchallenged, and still in effect. A pause. Why? Cale pressed. The question hung in the air. Simple, direct, dangerous. For the first time, Threx didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tapped the console again. The screen shifted. Most of the data vanished, replaced by a single symbol. Access denied. Below it, a line of text appeared. Archival footage. Level Omega clearance required. A few students leaned forward. Others exchanged glances. Footage, Cale said, raising an eyebrow. You're telling me there are actual recordings? Threx turned slightly, his gaze sweeping across the room. Yes. Then show us, Cale said. A few students murmured in agreement. Yeah, someone added. If it's real, prove it. Otherwise, it's just another story. The tension shifted. What had started as mockery was becoming something else. Not fear. Not yet. But curiosity, sharp and insistent. Threx studied them. Every face. Every posture. Every flicker of arrogance and doubt. You are not authorized, he said. Cale shrugged. Then authorize us. A ripple of laughter followed, but it felt thinner now, less certain. Threx didn't react. The restrictions exist for a reason, he continued. Which you won't explain, Cale shot back. A pause. Then, quietly, convenient. That word lingered, because it carried something new. Not just arrogance. Suspicion. And that changed things. For a long moment, no one spoke. The room felt different now. Quieter. Tighter. As if something unseen had shifted just beneath the surface. Finally, Threx stepped back from the console. Very well, he said. The words landed heavier than expected. A few students straightened. Cale's smirk widened, but just slightly. Next cycle, Threx continued, we will revisit this topic. A groan rose from the back. Of course, someone muttered. Delayed again. But Threx wasn't finished. I will request provisional access, he said. Limited. Supervised. Now the room went still. Completely still. Even Cale blinked. Wait, he said. You're serious? Threx's gaze locked onto his. Yes. A beat. Then. And when you see what has been sealed. The lights dimmed slightly as the holoscreen powered down. You will understand why it was never meant to be opened. No one laughed this time. Not a single voice. Because something in the professor's tone had changed. It wasn't authority. It wasn't warning. It was certainty. And as the students began to file out of the amphitheater, quieter than before, their earlier confidence dulled just enough to be noticeable. One thought lingered in every mind. If humans were truly weak, then why was their history still locked away? The Academy never truly slept. Even in its quietest cycles, the massive structure hummed with energy, data streams flowing through its core, security systems pulsing in layered grids, and thousands of minds moving between study, ambition, and silent competition. But that night, something was different. The laughter from earlier hadn't returned. It had faded into something sharper. Curiosity. And curiosity, at the Galactic Academy, was far more dangerous. Cale Virex stood at the edge of a dimly lit corridor, staring through a transparent panel into one of the restricted data wings. The faint glow of encrypted servers stretched into the distance, each one containing fragments of knowledge most cadets would never touch. Behind him, footsteps approached. "You're actually doing this," a voice said. Cale didn't turn. "Of course I am." 3 other figures stepped into the light. Lyris, her bioluminescent patterns dimmer than usual, betraying unease. Torvak, broad, armored, the kind who rarely questioned orders, until now. And Cell, quiet, calculating, already interfacing with a portable access device strapped to her forearm. "This is level Omega infrastructure," Lyris said softly. "Even getting close to it without authorization is exactly why no one checks," Cale interrupted. "Too many layers. Too much confidence." Torvak folded his arms. "Or too many consequences." Cale finally turned, his expression calm, almost amused. "Then leave." No one moved. That was answer enough. Cell stepped forward, raising her device. "I've been scanning since the lecture ended. There's a maintenance loop in the outer security grid. Cycles every 90 seconds. It's not much, but it's enough," Cale said. Cell hesitated. "For a glimpse," she added. "Not a full breach." Cale's eyes flicked back to the glass. "We don't need everything," he said. "Just proof." "Proof of what?" Lyris asked. Cale smiled faintly. "That they're hiding nothing." Silence. Then Cell exhaled. "All right," she said. "When the grid shifts, we'll have a narrow window. If we trigger anything beyond a low-level query, alarms will lock this entire wing." Torvak muttered, "I hate this plan." "You're still here," Cale replied. The corridor lights dimmed slightly, signaling a system cycle. Cell's fingers moved rapidly across her interface. "Now!" A faint pulse passed through the glass as the security field flickered, just for a fraction of a second. Cell pressed her palm against the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a thin line of light traced the edge of the barrier, and the door slid open with a whisper. No alarms. No alerts. Just silence. They stepped inside. The air felt colder. Not physically, but something about the space itself carried weight. Rows of data columns stretched upward, each one marked with layered encryption codes and clearance tags. Cell moved quickly to the nearest terminal. "Keep watch," she said. Torvak positioned himself near the entrance. Lyris stayed close to Cale. "This is a bad idea," she murmured. Cale didn't respond. His attention was fixed on the terminal as lines of alien code began to scroll across the display. Cell worked fast, searching for human classification, filtering restricted archives. The screen flickered. Then a list appeared. Hundreds of entries, most of them redacted, every single one marked. Level Omega. Lyris leaned in slightly. "That's not normal." "No," Cale said quietly. "It's not." Cell swallowed. "I can't open full records. But there are fragments. Metadata. Titles. Read them," Cale said. Cell hesitated. Then, incident log. Soul, 3 outer conflict. Survivability assessment. Human subjects. Psychological deviation report. Extreme conditions. She paused. Her voice lowered. Containment failure. The word lingered. Torvak shifted at the door. "Containment," he repeated. Cale's eyes narrowed. "Keep going." Cell scrolled further. Engagement footage. Classified. Post-conflict analysis. Restricted. Her hand stopped. "There's one file," she said. "Different tag." Cale leaned closer. "What kind of tag?" Cell's voice dropped to a whisper. "Priority seal. Council-level authorization." On the screen, a single entry pulsed faintly. "Archival footage. Human engagement." Below it, "Warning. Unauthorized access subject to immediate disciplinary action." Lyris took a step back. "That's it," she said. "We've seen enough." Cale didn't move. "Open it." Cell looked at him like he'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "Cale, open it." Torvak turned from the door. "If that triggers something—" "It won't," Cale said, though there was less certainty in his voice now. "It's just a file." Cell's fingers hovered over the interface. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Not cautious. Afraid. "We don't know what's in there," she said. Cale met her gaze. "That's the point." A long pause. Then, slowly, Cell exhaled. "All right," she whispered. Her fingers moved. The system resisted at first, layers of encryption pushing back, warning prompts flashing across the screen. Access denied. Insufficient clearance. Violation log initiated. Cell's jaw tightened. "Come on." She rerouted the query, masking it, fragmenting the request into smaller packets, slipping through gaps in the system's defenses. For a moment, it looked like it wouldn't work. Then, the warnings stopped. The screen went dark. Completely dark. All four of them froze. "Cell," Lyris said quietly. "I didn't," Cell started. Then the terminal flickered. A single line of text appeared. "Access granted. Partial. No alarms. No lockdown." Just that. Cale felt something shift in his chest. Not fear. Not yet. But something close. "Play it," he said. Cell hesitated only a second this time. Then she tapped the screen. The lights in the data wing dimmed automatically as the system redirected power to the display. The screen expanded. Static filled the air, low, crackling, uneven. The image struggled to form. Distorted shapes. Broken audio. Fragments of something. Old. Very old. Lyris wrapped her arms around herself. "I don't like this," she whispered. No one responded. Because now, the footage was beginning to stabilize. And whatever they were about to see, it had been buried for a reason. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the data vault systems. The four cadets, Cale, Cell, Lyris, and Torvak, stood frozen, staring at the terminal as the footage stabilized. The static crackle had faded just enough to reveal shapes, though the image still flickered like it was fighting to be seen. Every movement on the screen seemed deliberate, every shadow heavy with the weight of something forbidden. Cell's hands hovered above the console, her fingers trembling. "I can stabilize it further," she whispered. "But if I push too hard, the system might detect the breach." Cale didn't flinch. "Do it. I want to see everything we can." Her fingers moved quickly over the holographic interface, manipulating encrypted packets to reconstruct the damaged feed. Gradually, the image sharpened. A metallic chamber came into view. Burned panels, scratched floors, and dim, flickering overhead lights gave the space an abandoned, battle-scarred look. The room's scale was smaller than the cadets expected, but the atmosphere felt suffocating. Is this a ship?" Torvak asked quietly, his voice betraying confusion. "No," Cell murmured, eyes locked on the screen. "This is some kind of containment facility. Reinforced walls, high security doors." The energy readings are consistent with high-level life support systems. The flicker of movement caught their attention. At first, it seemed insignificant, a shadow shifting against the wall, but then the figure emerged fully into view. A human, injured, bloodied, and ragged. Its body was thin and seemingly fragile, marked with bruises, burns, and cuts that would have incapacitated almost any other species. A human, Cale muttered under his breath, more as a confirmation than a question. That's it. That's what the human ban was about. Lyrissa's bioluminescent patterns pulsed nervously. It can barely stand. How is it even upright? The human's head lifted slightly, and a breath rasped through the audio. Still here. The voice was weak, nearly drowned in static, but unmistakably human. Cell froze, her eyes widening. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Torvak leaned closer, tension tightening his jaw. "It's speaking, and it's coherent." The human dragged itself forward, 1 foot at a time, its movements painstakingly slow yet deliberate. Cale frowned. It shouldn't be able to move. None of this makes sense. The footage shifted suddenly, cutting to a corridor outside the containment room. The corridor was metallic and sterile, lined with security panels and faint red warning lights. From the far end, 3 figures appeared, tall, heavily armored alien soldiers, their limbs bristling with integrated weapons. The camera feed trembled slightly, suggesting movement or recoil, but the units advanced with precise, coordinated steps. "Security teams," Torvak muttered. "High-grade combat armor. Elite units." The human's posture changed subtly but noticeably. Weakness wasn't gone, it couldn't be, but an unmistakable focus had taken its place. Lyrissa's pulse quickened. "Why is it reacting like that?" she whispered. Cell didn't answer. She didn't need to. The cadets were already seeing it. The impossible. The human, battered and barely conscious, stood straighter. Its small, bloodied hands clenched instinctively, as if it were preparing for something no one could anticipate. The units closed the distance, weapons scanning and targeting. One raised a plasma rifle. "Target located," a mechanical voice stated. "Containment breach confirmed." Cale's lips tightened. "Breach. It's still locked in there." The human responded, not with words this time, but with a laugh. Weak, breathless, broken, and yet unmistakable. It was a sound that didn't belong in that context, neither fear nor despair, but something else, something unnerving. Lyrissa's hand shot to her mouth, her glow dimming as the sound settled in. Torvak frowned. "Why? Is it laughing?" The human lifted its head fully, its eyes locking on the nearest unit. "You came back," it whispered, almost mournfully. Then it took a single deliberate step forward. The armored unit reacted instantly, firing a direct plasma blast at point-blank range. The human's body jerked backward, slamming against the wall with bone-crunching force. Smoke and sparks erupted from the impact points, and for a moment all motion seemed frozen in the feed. Cell gasped. That shouldn't be possible. No species could survive that. But survive it did. Slowly, agonizingly, the human pushed itself off the wall, dragging its injured body upright. It staggered, its movements uneven, yet purposeful. Cale felt a cold, unfamiliar sensation settle in his chest, unease, disbelief, and a creeping sense of horror. The other 2 units recalibrated, increasing their firepower. Weapons glowed brighter, beams sizzling as they fired, energy blasts scorching the floor. The human reacted instinctively, dodging, shifting weight, and staggering forward despite every impact. "This isn't just survival," Cale whispered. "It's something else." The units fired again, more rapidly. Each hit should have ended the human. It didn't. Each time it fell or was thrown backward, it adapted, adjusting to the energy blasts, using momentum, responding instinctively in ways that made no tactical sense, but were devastatingly effective. Lyris shivered. It's not trying to survive. It's finishing something. Torvak shook his head slowly. No species behaves like that. That's beyond endurance, beyond reason. Kale's eyes were fixed on the screen, on the human's face as it smiled again despite burns, blood, and shattered armor. That smile, soft, broken, almost mocking, carried something worse than strength. It carried certainty. The camera angle shifted, showing the chaos of the corridor. Sparks flew. Panels were dented. Weapons were bent. Smoke filled the room. The human advanced, dragging one fallen unit while the other tried to flee. Each motion, though weak, was unstoppable. Every attempt to stop it failed. Cell covered her mouth, her voice barely audible. It's unstoppable. Kale's jaw tightened. No, not unstoppable. It's something else entirely. The footage flickered, static returning for brief fractions of a second, but the last image froze in Kale's mind. The human standing amid smoke, blood, and broken soldiers, smiling faintly, defiant. The camera feed ended before the final moment, leaving the cadets in darkness. For the first time, the four of them understood the reason behind the human ban. Humans weren't just physically weak. They were unpredictable, relentless, and utterly incomprehensible to any other species. The silence in the data vault pressed in on them. No one laughed. No one spoke. The image of that human, defiant and smiling, lingered far longer than the feed itself. And in that silence, an unsettling truth settled. Humans weren't just survivors. They were something far, far worse. The human didn't fall. Not after the first blast. Not the second. Not the third. Every shot from the alien units hit with lethal precision, searing burns across its body, but it remained upright. Shaking, staggering, bloodied, but standing. Cell's hands trembled. It shouldn't be possible, she whispered. Kale didn't answer. His eyes were glued to the screen. It's not surviving. It's calculating, adapting. The human's gaze fixed on the nearest alien soldier. You came back, it whispered. Then it moved. Fast. Faster than its injuries should allow. In a blur, it closed the distance, twisting the first unit's weapon aside, dragging it down. Sparks flew. Metal groaned. Torvak's jaw tightened. How is it doing that? The second unit fired at the human's torso. Plasma bolts scorched the walls, sending shards of metal flying. The human staggered but rose again, adjusting, advancing, relentless. Lyris whispered, "It's adapting. Every hit, it's adapting." The third unit tried to flank, firing at its head. Smoke rose from the strike. The human convulsed under the energy's force, but it kept moving forward, step by agonizing step, bleeding, broken, barely functional, but advancing. Kale's voice was low. It doesn't recognize limits. It doesn't retreat. It doesn't hesitate. It's rewriting every rule we know. The last alien unit tried to retreat. The human grabbed it, dragging it back. Sparks and debris filled the corridor. The other two units lay motionless, either destroyed or incapacitated. Finally, the human lifted its gaze to the camera. Its chest heaved, limbs shaking, bloodied, exhausted. Yet it smiled faintly, not cruelly, confidently, certain. Cell swallowed. It's not just defiance. It's recognition. It knew, and didn't care. Kale exhaled. It wasn't surviving. It was proving a point. And the galaxy isn't ready for it. The footage ended. Silence filled the vault. The cadets stood frozen, realizing the human ban wasn't a precaution. It was a warning. Humans weren't weak. They were unstoppable. The screen went black. No static. No flicker. Just emptiness where the footage had shown a human enduring the impossible. Kale, Cell, Lyris, and Torvak stood frozen. The silence of the vault pressed down on them, heavier than any warning alarm. Cell's hands trembled as she ended the feed. "It's done," she whispered, though the word felt hollow. Done? Nothing like that could ever be done. Lyris's glow flickered erratically. "It shouldn't be real," she murmured. "No being could survive that, and keep moving." Torvak's jaw tightened. Those were elite units. Nothing should have stood. Yet it did. And smiled. Kale's gaze stayed on the blank screen. "It wasn't surviving," he said. "It was advancing. Finishing something. It didn't hesitate. It didn't retreat." Cell swallowed hard. "No species functions like that. That's beyond limits, beyond comprehension." Lyris nodded. "It wasn't weak. It was relentless, unpredictable, dangerous." A chilling realization settled over them. The human ban wasn't to protect humans. It was to protect everyone else. Level Omega restrictions, suppressed files, hidden footage. They weren't hiding weakness. They were hiding this. Kale exhaled slowly. "Humans don't follow rules. Their limits don't exist the way we understand them." Torvak whispered, almost in awe. "And we thought we were the elite." "No," Kale said. "We were blind. They survived disasters, wars, experiments we can't comprehend. And they'll keep going, because they choose to." The 4 cadets stepped back. Silence filled the vault, heavy, suffocating. They had sought proof humans were weak, expendable. Instead, they had seen the terrifying truth. Humans weren't just survivors. They were unstoppable. The human ban existed for a reason. And now, the cadets understood why. Humans weren't weak. They were the reason the galaxy feared what it could not understand.